श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19. King Yayati achieves liberation. Text number 19. Tasmat etam aham tyaktva. Tasmad etam aham tyaktva. Tasmad etam aham tyaktva. Brahmani adhyaya manasam. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Tasmadetamaham tyaktva. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Tasmadetamaham tyaktva. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Tasmadetamaham tyaktva. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Tasmadetamaham tyaktva. Brahmanyadhyaya manasam. Nirdvandvo nirahankaraha. Charishyami mrugaihi saha. Tasmat, therefore, etam, such strong desires for lusty affairs, aham, I, tyaktva, giving up, Brahmani, upon the supreme absolute truth, adhyaya, fixing manasam, the mind, nirdvandvaha, without duality, nirahankaraha, without an identity of false prestige. Charishyami, I shall loiter or wander in the forest. Mrigaihi saha, with the forest animals. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Therefore I shall now give up all these desires and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, free from the dualities of mental concoction and free from false prestige. I shall wander in the forest with the animals. Please repeat this translation after me. Therefore, I shall now give up all these desires and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, free from the dualities of mental concoction and free from false prestige. I shall wander in the forest with the animals. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. To go to the forest and live there with the animals, meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only means by which to give up lusty desires. Unless one gives up such desires, one's mind cannot be freed from material contamination. Therefore, if one is at all interested in being freed from the bondage of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease, after a certain age one must go to the forest. Panchashordhvam vanam, panchashordhvam vanam vrajet. After 50 years of age, one should voluntarily give up family life and go to the forest. The best forest is Vrindavan, where one need not live with the animals, but can associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who never leaves Vrindavan. Cultivating Krishna consciousness in Vrindavan is the best means of being liberated from material bondage. For in Vrindavan one can automatically meditate upon Krishna. Vrindavan has many temples, and in one or more of these temples one may see the form of the Supreme Lord as Radha Krishna or Krishna Balaram and meditate upon this form, as expressed here by the words Brahmani Adhyaya. One should concentrate one's mind upon the Supreme Lord Parabrahman. This Parabrahman is Krishna, as confirmed by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Krishna and his abode, Vrindavan, are not different. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam. Vrindavana is as good as Krishna. Therefore, if one some or other gets the opportunity to live in Vrindavan, and if one is not a pretender, but simply lives in Vrindavan and concentrates his mind upon Krishna, one is liberated from material bondage. One's mind is not purified, however, even in Vrindavan, if one is agitated by lusty desires. One should not live in Vrindavan and continue and commit offenses, for a life of offenses in Vrindavan is no better than the lives of the monkeys and the hogs there. Many monkeys and hogs live in Vrindavan, and they are concerned with their sexual desires. Men who have gone to Vrindavan but who still hanker for sex should immediately leave Vrindavan and stop their grievous offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. There are many misguided men who live in Vrindavan to satisfy their sexual desires, but they are certainly no better than the monkeys and hogs. Those who are under the control of Maya, and specifically under the control of lusty desires, are called Maya Mriga. Indeed, everyone in the conditional stage of material life is a Maya Mriga. It is said, Maya Mrigam Dayita Yepsitam Anvadhavad. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas to show his causeless mercy to the Maya Mrigas, the people of this material world who suffer because of lusty desires. One should follow the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and always think of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Then one will be eligible to live in Vrindavan and his life will be successful. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare. These are words of a realized soul. And Yayati is no ordinary person, even though he is afflicted by lust so much. But still, he is an intelligent person. So the first proposition is, when a living entity gets human form of life, they have developed intelligence as compared to the other creatures. Everyone is conditioned in this material world differently, in different bodies. This body is also a conditioned body. But still, the intelligence is developed which can be utilized for something very, very, very special, to get out of this bondage. Therefore, every human being should understand this most important lesson, that human life means developed intelligence which can be utilized for becoming free from material bondage permanently. Permanent freedom, ultimate freedom. And this incident concerning the life of King Yayati is specifically narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam to give us some very important lessons, so many lessons, that even if somebody has very nice facility for enjoying materially, this lusty desires can never be satisfied. Sometimes people think, I don't have good facilities, so let me work hard and get better facilities. then I can satisfy my desires and be happy. But that's never to happen. Then somebody may think that I not enjoyed sufficiently, even though I have all the facilities and a good arrangement, still I could not enjoy enough. But as Yayati is realizing and he is speaking his realization, that I have spent a full 1000 years enjoying sense gratification, yet my desire to enjoy such pleasure increases daily. If your goal is that I will satisfy my desire by which I will become pacified, I'll become peaceful, I'll become happy, then if the desire does not reduce, desire only increases, then it's a very dangerous thing. This is the nature of lust. This is the nature of greed. This is the nature of anger. This is the nature of envy. This is the nature of intoxication or madness. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, illusion. Mada, madness or pride, excessive pride or intoxication. And matsarya, enviousness. These 6 are very, 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 very dangerous. So they have been classified among the different kinds of weaknesses somebody may have, some different kinds of defects a person may have. These 6 are classified as the worst enemies of a human being. Worst enemies. And they can never be pacified. They can never be subdued by directly working for satisfying them. Never. It's never possible. Because the nature of such desires, lusty desires or greedy desires, or desire for expressing anger, desire for expressing one's own pride, or desire for satisfying illusion. Under the influence of illusion, one thinks that somehow I will satisfy some illusory desires for enjoyment and become pacified, satisfied. It's never to happen. So we have to take note of such desires, because desire is a fundamental quality of a living person. Only a living person can have desires. And living person will always have desires. So desire cannot be killed and desire cannot be satisfied if they are desires of this kind, particularly these 6 kind of desires. So therefore, the process of bhakti is the only way to deal with such desires. And what is the process of bhakti? To purify desires. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. To purify the desires. And such purification of desires means, on one side, we should endeavor to give up such desires. That is also mentioned here in the previous verse. For those who are too attached to material enjoyment, sense gratification is very difficult to give up. So this kind of attachment for enjoying in a particular way, what way? Material way. Because there is another kind of enjoyment, another kind of seeking pleasure, spiritual happiness, spiritual pleasure, spiritual enjoyment. That is different than material enjoyment. Therefore, if somebody is attached to material enjoyment, they become blind to this reality that this material enjoyment can never be satisfied. And they don't consider, oh, there is another kind of enjoyment called spiritual enjoyment. That they don't consider. Even though human intelligence is developed to understand this different kind of pleasure called spiritual pleasure, spiritual happiness, spiritual enjoyment. Human beings can understand this. But that understanding is completely lost. That's what Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Intelligence is lost. Means the intelligence which is capable of understanding these different kind of enjoyment, that intelligence becomes lost. Then one will simply utilize the intelligence for enjoying materially in different ways, for making so many new different arrangements, for just like this Yayati, when he was prematurely cursed to become old, cursed to become prematurely old, he somehow pleaded with his father-in-law, Shukracharya, because Shukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana. So can I get back my youth, because I have not sufficiently enjoyed my youthful desires. So Shukracharya took compassion and thought of a way that you can exchange your old age for somebody else's youth. And after you enjoy, you can give back his youth. So thought, very nice arrangement. See, even Shukracharya also, because he is attached to this Yayati. After all, this Yayati is my son-in-law. And why attached to son-in-law? Because he is attached to his daughter. See, this material attachment is actually nonsense. It is the cause of so many problems, so many problems. So, such a learned Brahmana, Yati is a Kshatriya. He is not expected to be as wise and learned as a Brahmana. Even a Brahmana such as Shukracharya, he is thinking, how can I find a way of helping this Yayati? And he thought, oh, I can help him out. And Yayati immediately thought, oh, I've got 5 sons. They're all very nice sons. So any one of them will give me their youth. So he went. Can you imagine? He's shamelessly asking his sons, give me your youth. Shamelessly he's asking. But the force of lusty desire for enjoyment is so strong. In spite of having to go and ask his own sons, instead of he instructing them that you should not actually pursue lusty desires for enjoyment. Instead of that, he is going and asking them, I am not sufficiently enjoyed, kindly give me your youth. And what is Yayati's position? He is the emperor of the world. He is not incapable person. He is not foolish. That also requires some intelligence to rule the whole world. And it is described, he was nicely performing sacrifices. Previously, in the previous chapter, it is described. Along with enjoying with his wife after his marriage, he also performed various sacrifices in which he offered abundant gifts to the Brahmanas to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari. He also looked after his citizens as if they were his own children. So he is not an incapable person. But where is his intelligence gone? When it comes to understanding that these lusty desires can never be satisfied, that intelligence is lost. So Krishna helps us understand what is the nature of lust in this second chapter and third chapter. In the second chapter, Krishna describes the way intelligence is lost even for a person who is intelligent. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sammohaha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. Step by step, how the degradation happens. First, it begins with dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, contemplation upon the objects of the senses. We got this faculty that we can contemplate on something. This ability is specifically for a human being. Contemplation. So this contemplation on sense objects is the beginning of the downfall of a human being. Having got human form of life, one can be thoughtful. One can utilize one's mind, intelligence properly for self-realization, for permanent freedom from material bondage, for solving all the fundamental problems of life. But instead of utilizing this faculty, developed intelligence or power of contemplation for self-realization, if one misdirects one's intelligence one's contemplation for contemplating on sense objects. How I can enjoy some sense objects. And how many sense objects are there in this material world? Unlimited. Virtually unlimited. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in that prayer we recite before we accept prasadam, Jive phele vishaya sagare. This material world is an ocean of sense objects. Ocean. Ocean means huge quantity. So, everywhere you see, every material object is an object of sense enjoyment because it has got these 5 characteristics. It is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. One or more of these elements combined. So each of these elements have got a particular quality. Earth has got the quality, of course, beginning with ether. Ether has got the quality of sound, shabda. So, varieties of sounds, and they are all the object for the sense we have called ears. So, because we have a desire, not a desire, many desires for enjoying these senses, these 5 senses in particular. So many sense objects are different kinds of sense objects are available for our enjoyment. So varieties of sounds, so many varieties of sounds. Just like you take these musical instruments, so many varieties of musical instruments. Even if it is not musical instrument, sweet voice of another person. That sweet voice may not be even melodious voice. Of course, if it is melodious, then it is more captivating. Even if it is not melodious, if they speak some words which are very pleasing to the mind, sweet talk, just like Prahlad Maharaj describes, in household life, a person is surrounded by so many traps of sense enjoyment. Wife, children, parents, sons, daughters, household paraphernalia, household pets, household animals, then some social prestige. So he says, Prahlad Maharaj says that small children, when they speak broken language, even though it is meaningless what they are speaking, they are just learning to talk. They have not yet developed this speaking faculty fully. It takes some time. So, but still, when the child starts speaking, the parents, particularly the mother and father, so much joy. Oh, my child has started speaking. But this is something very special. What they don't realize is, it's not just human beings who can speak. Of course, every human being can speak, except for some few dumb people. Some defect is there in their voice box or the vibrating the tongue or something. Okay. But other than that, everybody else can speak. And not only humans, even the birds, the animals, they have their own language. If you study Bhagavatam, you understand, in Vrindavan, Krishna can speak the language of the birds. Krishna can speak the language of the animals. Krishna can speak all languages. So, even the birds, the bees, the insects, the worms, all of them can speak in their own way and communicate. So it is nothing great. But when the child starts speaking, the parents get so much of pleasure. So that broken language, broken words, it's so pleasing to the parents. They become almost completely captivated by the child. Even though what it is speaking is nothing, may not be anything meaningful. But still, parents are captivated. So like this, different kinds of sounds, millions of varieties of sounds are there. Vishaya Sagara. Then different kinds of sensation of touch. So many varieties. So many varieties. Just like somebody goes to buy a bed. Now, bed is simply some facility for lying down, because you can't lie down on a hard surface. So something little soft, which will be, comfortable for lying down. No. Not just something little soft, but how does it feel for the skin? Silky smooth. This is the advertisement of one company I saw. Silky smooth. The sense of touch it is. And there are descriptions. You should read the Bhagavatam. What is the facility for enjoying the sense of touch in the heavenly planets? You study 7th canto Bhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu, when he conquered that heavenly planet from Indra, and he was occupying Indra's throne, so the description is there. What Hiranyakashipu started enjoying, which he was not able to enjoy in the earth. The furniture and the beds and the coverings are made of some covering like foam, which is extremely smooth. And for the sense of touch, it is very, 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 very million times more pleasing than anything on the earth. So Bhagavatam is telling this foolish Hiranyakashipu, his senses could not be satisfied in spite of having all these facilities in the heavenly planet as compared to the earth. So there are so many facilities for enjoying the sense of touch, for enjoying the sense of hearing, for enjoying the sense of taste. No need to mention how many varieties of edibles are there. This is all Maya's trick actually. Actually, there are only 6 tastes. Shadrasa. But the combinations, virtually unlimited combinations. So, this is Maya's trap to keep us entangled in this material world, making us a donkey. Going on trying to enjoy and become happy. Never you get that happiness that you seek. So therefore, here specifically, he's telling, Yati is telling, one who actually desires happiness must give up such unsatisfied desires, which are the cause of all tribulations. All material desires which are still pending in the heart, please give it up. This is one side of spiritual life. And the other side is just merely giving up is not enough. The Buddhist philosophy is these material desires, Buddha just stated in a very simple way. Desire is the cause of misery, so give up such desires. Become free from desires. But there what is meant is specifically Material desires are the cause of all problems. So give up material desires. But that's not enough. A living being cannot be vacant of desires. Prabhupada explains many times. That is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. You cannot be totally make all desires zero. Not possible. So on one side you give up material desires, on the other side parallelly you cultivate spiritual desires. Cultivate spiritual desires. And these spiritual desires, they are so very nice that even if you get a little bit glimpse of what it is, the spiritual pleasure, just like somebody comes new to Krishna consciousness, if they get a little taste for nice prasadam, even though this actual taste of prasadam, materially speaking, it's not new to them. It's not new to them. At least in India, if we are giving some nice mixed rice, palav, it's not that people who all come here have never tasted palav in their life. No. They might have tasted so many varieties. But that cannot satisfy the soul because it is material. And the same palav, if it is offered to Krishna and it is mixed with Krishna's saliva, then it is nectarian. Anna becomes Annamrita. This also Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. Say Annamrita khao. Accept this nectarian transformed into nectar. This ordinary food is transformed into nectar when you offer to Krishna. And that prasadam, when they get a glimpse of that taste, they immediately become attracted to Krishna consciousness. This happened to all of us. It keeps on happening as we keep preaching to newer and newer people. They would have heard so much music, but when they hear the music of Harinam Sankirtana, and if they get, of course they will, unless they are very demoniac nature, unless they are very much lost in plans for material enjoyment, totally lost, their intelligence is lost, their mind is bewildered. Unless that is the case, they will definitely see some new kind of taste in, or new kind of experience in hearing nice Krishna conscious music. So then, side by side, cultivate such desires for experiencing and relishing this pleasure. Pleasure of kirtan, pleasure of tasting prasadam, pleasure of smelling the fragrance of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of Krishna, the incense offered to Krishna in Arati. So this is the kind of desire we should cultivate side by side. The secret of Krishna consciousness. So both are required. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatra syat. Bhakti means developing this attachment and attraction for Krishna, Krishna consciousness. And side by side, viraktir anyatra syat, side by side, developing detachment, virakti, for all material things. And how can that happen? You have to endeavor to give up unsatisfied material desires and also develop side by side spiritual desires. So this is possible when one gives up association of materialists who are always busy with material sense gratification and associates positively with devotees who are seriously interested in spiritual life. So both are required, side by side. This is the program of Bhakti Yoga. Side by side, both have to be developed. Then one is guaranteed to make progress in Krishna consciousness and very easily give up. For Yayati, it is happening in a very slow manner. After 1,000 full years of trying to enjoy, somehow, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, he developed disgust with such enjoyment. It's not guaranteed that somebody enjoys for a long time, they'll become disgusted with the enjoyment. No, it's not certain that it will happen. He is fortunate that he developed that disgust and started using his intelligence for thinking, why am I not able to satisfy my lusty desires in spite of so much of facility and nice arrangement and nice and good length of time, still I am not satisfied. Why? And then Krishna from within, who is very kind to every conditioned soul, he gives the intelligence to understand this, and he realized that this is not the way to become really happy, to become satisfied. And then he decided to give up all these desires and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. So take up bhakti and don't try to enjoy materially and then give it up. No. Many times people, when young devotees join this Krishna conscious movement, sometimes even parents and other elders, they say, unless you have experienced sufficiently the material world and you've gone through Grihastha-ashrama, until then you cannot be successful in spiritual life. This is not correct. This is not true for a human being. For a human being, if they are fortunate to get good association, shelter under the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, they don't have to go through all experiences to become wise, because the first class intelligence of a human being can be awakened by the bona fide spiritual master, by practicing Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service. The first class intelligence can be awakened at any stage. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, if possible, one should cultivate Krishna consciousness from the age of 5. Kaumaram acharit prajno dharman bhagavataniha. When his classmates were telling this young age why we should not play and like small children, why we have to give up this playing business. So then Prahlad Maharaj explains to them and says that this human form of life is very precious and this opportunity should not be lost. And as early as possible you begin this, even when one is 5 years old. So parents have a responsibility, because at 5 years old, it is not so much likely a child will naturally get attracted. No. Parents have to direct the children. This is a responsibility of parents. So, if one can begin at any stage practicing Krishna consciousness, then guaranteed success. any stage. And it's never too late for those who have not been able to take up Krishna consciousness when they were young. Sometimes people come late to Krishna consciousness after they are a little old. Then they think, oh, I should have taken this up earlier. Yes, that's a good thought. But it's never too late. Anyone at any stage can begin Krishna consciousness and perfect themselves. Under proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, in good association, giving up bad company, asasanga tyag, e Vaishnavachar, one can very easily take up Krishna consciousness and progress and make the life perfect. So I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki.